Welcome to Creative Living with Jamie. I'm your host, Jamie Ridler of Jamie Ridler Studios. On this program, I'll be talking to a wide range of creative independent spirits in order to bring you inspiration, stories, and strategies for bringing creativity to life. I hope you'll join me every week. Who knows, one day I might just be talking to you.
Hey everybody! Well, I hope that you had a wonderful end of the summer season and are settling into a spectacular September. I'm excited! It is good to be back to the studio. I am excited about this season. For me, there's something that's feeling different. Maybe it's that now we've hit that year mark of working in this seasonal way, and that feels good down to my bones. And we're finally in a rhythm with our systems and our setup, and it's starting to feel like it works. Maybe too, as we step into this last full season of the year, my inner compass is reminding me of what I wanted to do, see, be this year. And it's given me a bit of a tug back to the true north that I set myself last December. And it's reminding me to get moving on some things and to let other things go. At the end of last year, I was hit with one major inspiration and one major message, both of which I'm working on right now. So the major inspiration was to create a tangible studio yearbook, a kind of guided workbook where you could gather your inspirations and your celebrations that would give you space for reflecting and for dreaming. One early morning in the dark of dawn, it just poured out of me, and I've been working on it ever since. I've had an alpha team tested out, and then I had a beta team tested out, and now we're in the midst of getting test copies printed in 2 different formats by 2 different printers to see where we land. This yearbook has been my constant companion this year, and I treasure it. From the minute it arrived in my heart, I have been committed to bringing it out into the world, and my hope is that for the winter season, I'll be doing just that. So stay tuned. We're working hard behind the scenes and hoping to bring you that in October. And just like the yearbook sprang out of nowhere, like it literally woke me up and had me writing at the kitchen table for 7 hours straight, so too was this major message that I received at the end of the year last year. It was one that took me by surprise. When I took myself through my planning process to get ready for the new year, one of the exercises that I do, and you'll have done this with me if you took part in planning day, was to choose an inspiration image for the year. And mine shocked me. I chose a golden image of a woman all alone walking out into the water towards a landscape of mountains. It was full of ease. It was full of spaciousness. And I'll tell you, ease and spaciousness were not at all what I had imagined for the year ahead, but there they were. When those things arrive, I tend to take them seriously. So, like the yearbook, this is something I have been working on all year. I'm still working on, and because I haven't been that great at it yet, I am making it a particular focus this season. I've made some big changes to my schedule to allow me to have more time with the things that are important to me, things that I long to do, things I long to create. And my new schedule includes time for writing, time for my own creative expression, and even time to go on Saturday morning adventures with Justin. Maybe you saw pictures of our recent venture horseback riding. If you haven't, come on over to openthedoor.ca and check that out. And you know what? It feels good. But it's also hard. It's hard not to revert back to the habitual. For example, this week I discovered an art school class that seemed like it was tailor-made for me. I immediately started thinking about how I could make it work. I started juggling, I started rescheduling, I started telling myself I would just make it work. And I was all ready to sign on the dotted line when I thought about that old saying, if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always got. Yeah, this is what I always do. I say yes. And yes, I love it. And I'm sure I could make it work. But would I feel that sense of ease? Would I move into that spaciousness? No, I wouldn't. I don't know, in fact, that I'll like the new approach better, but this is where my spirit guided me on planning day last year, and I owe it to myself to at least explore the possibility, to try it on and see if it might work for me even better than the way I've done things before. So I said no to the class and yes to more ease. Do you have anything like that? Anything that you have promised yourself for this year or maybe for a long time coming? Is there one thing or a dozen things that you wanted to do, see, be, experience? Even if you haven't thought about this before, give it some thought right now. When you are sitting down to celebrate on this coming New Year's Eve, what would make you look back on this year and think, oh, yes, that was awesome? It is not too late. You still have a whole season to make it happen. The whole season to take a class, to clear out your basement, to get 3 chapters written, to book a vacation, to balance your budget, to start drawing again, to go on an artist date, to read that book, to start going for walks, to say what needs to be said, to get more sleep, to get a puppy, to purge your wardrobe, or to ask someone out. It is not too late to bring more of what you want into this year, and it is not too late to bring more of what you want into this life. One of the things that I am so glad to bring into my life and into yours is creative conversations, including the one I'm going to share with you today. Let me introduce you to Ivy Newport. Ivy Newport is a published artist, an art instructor, and a creative guide. Her online collection of artistic workshops has served thousands of students internationally. After a lifetime studying art and a career that spanned art education and interior design, Ivy left her fast-paced work life to become a mother of 2 girls. While at home, she threw herself into creative discovery and began to passionately shoot photography and author a blog. Ultimately, these activities led her to the online creative community, which inspired her current career as an art instructor, teaching both online and in person. Ivy's artistic message is to guide others to their creativity and to nurture those special gifts in each of us. She strongly believes that every soul is creative and that finding ways to express that creativity is paramount to joy and to healing. Clearly, you can hear why I have her on the show. You can learn more about Ivy by visiting her at ivynewport.com. Now, let's enjoy this time with Ivy. Hey there, Ivy. Welcome to Creative Living with Jamie.
Hi there, Jamie. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited to chat with you. And why don't we start off with you sharing with everybody a little bit about you and your creative life?
Alrighty. Well, I am a full-time artist and teacher, and I like to refer to myself as a creative guide. Right now, I'm working a lot online with students all over the world, which I feel so grateful for. And I'm also doing in-person workshops and retreats as well.
What inspired you to take your art and become a guide for others too?
Well, I definitely had a meandering path. I didn't do art for 10 years after graduating art school, and I felt pretty lost. And actually, the catalyst was becoming a new mom and trying to kind of reestablish who I am as a person, as a creative being. And I started kind of exploring online classes and taking some art classes from other artists. And it really rekindled something in me. And a couple years went by and I just kind of got back into art, and it made me so happy. It made me feel a lot of peace in my life. And I decided I'd take the leap and try my hand at being a teacher too. So yeah, it's kind of just been a crazy journey, but I find it so rewarding and such a great career for me.
What was the bump in the road between art school and there?
Yeah, so art school was amazing and it was incredibly useful. And I'm so grateful for all of that knowledge I gained having that formal education. But I would have to say that all the rules and the critiques and the competition, I think it killed my creative spirit a little bit. And I kind of ended up feeling pretty burned out. And so it just kind of went a little dormant, although I ended up going into a lot of different creative areas inevitably. I think my creativity, just like with a lot of us, it just comes out whether we want it to or not.
Yes.
and and so yeah, I think it was just a place of feeling, tired and burned out and not good enough. And I was just tired of all the competition, and I really just kind of lost my way with it for a little while.
I'm so curious because I think I know that a lot of people who listen to the show are people who've had, wounds from difficult teachers or had that experience of feeling shut down in classes. And what helped you come back? Or, now looking back on that, what do you wish you could have told yourself? Or what would you tell people who are carrying that sort of shut downness with them?
Yeah, it's really difficult because as creatives, we're a very sensitive group. And so yeah, we can suffer those wounds. And for me, I think coming back to a place of, well, I started journaling quite a bit when I was feeling really shut down, and that helped immensely. Also, I started just following my curiosities and going after things that were just kind of piquing my interest. For example, I started making skincare products, and it's kind of random, but my creativity or my creative mind wanted to learn something. And so I wasn't ready to start painting at that time, but I started studying plants. I started studying essential oils and started making skincare. And so my creativity came out in that way. So I would say follow your curiosities, even if you're in a place where you're not ready to quite make that leap into creating art, like kind of listen to what else is like calling to you. And even though it might seem random or strange, I think it was a way of my creative energy, like kind of getting me back in line, if that makes sense. And yeah, so I think listening to yourself and just trying different things that although may not seem in line with what you think you should be doing, I feel like our intuition guides us in such a way that we can really expand from that place if we're open to learning new things.
I so hear you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and now for your own creativity, like what fascinates you now? What's inspiring you now?
Yes. Well, yes, my focus shifts a lot. And so sometimes it can be hard for me to get the clarity that I need. But I find that right now I am super inspired by travel. Travel is something that I'm doing quite a bit. And I love meeting my students in person and kind of enjoying a new environment with them and exploring creativity in a whole new place. I think that can be so inspiring. And then I think the other thing that's inspiring me right now is we recently have been doing some business classes and stuff for artists. And I love helping other artists get inspired and, and start learning how to make money with their creativity. So that to me has been really rewarding and kind of my focus right now. So I would say those two things are definitely inspiring me.
I think that's so awesome too. There's a way in which I love that when you've managed to find a way to channel your creativity in a way that really helps and supports others and is a good business for you, that you can, it's kind of like paying it forward, right? To turn around and say, here's how you can do it too.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And it's just amazing to see other artists, some of my students, flourish and create their own classes, their own teachings. And so they get to share their gifts with others. So it's just a win-win.
It's funny when you were saying about sort of jumping or falling in love with the next interesting thing that you wanted to explore.
Yes.
And I don't know if this is the kind of thing you were talking about, but it immediately took my mind to the way you teach these sort of themed classes, and there might be a theme of the dancer, or there might be a theme of wings. And
Right.
it's one of the things I delight in looking at your classes. And I wonder if that's one of the ways that you channel that interest of going from one thing to the next to the next.
Yes, actually, that's very observant of you. Yes, that's exactly what I do. I kind of get obsessed in one area and I dive in really deep and I study it and I kind of get wrapped up in it. And then I'm really passionate and excited. So I get to share that with my students in this sort of kind of in a framework of a theme. And that helps me kind of control my urge to meander and go into another topic. So yes, that it's definitely a useful tool for me and a great way for me to share what I'm really excited about at the time.
One of the things I noticed too, and I have a question for you about, is that, though there's this beautiful I love themes too. So I love that exploration of, a topic. And yet I feel like somebody could always see that this is your work of art, that this is
Right.
your artistic style. And I think this is something everybody always is so concerned about for themselves. And so I ask on their behalf, like, how did you find your artistic style, your artistic voice?
Yes. So I know I've been asked this question a few times, and I think it is something that a lot of, especially newer artists, worry about. And my style is something that's just it's just evolved. It's not something that I went out and tried to orchestrate. And so I always encourage my students to really just show up and consistently make art, and that your style will shine through whether you choose to or not. Does that make sense? It's like you can't hide the way that you work with materials. You can't hide your touch in the art. And I think that eventually becomes a style that can be recognized across different types of art. It's funny, I'll post an abstract piece and then I'll post a portrait piece and people will be like, I knew that abstract was yours, or I knew, and it's always surprises me because they look so different to me.
Right.
But yet people are able to see some kind of connection or style in the work. So yeah, I try to tell people not to overly stress about that, but just keep making art. And I feel like your style will come out on its own.
I love the language you use, sort of was revealed something to me, I think, is that there's this wonderful tension that goes on between the fact that we're aching and worrying about and trying to find our style. And yet at the same time, when you say you can't hide, there's something a little scary about that. I can't hide.
Right. Yeah.
So I wonder if that's a part of the relationship is, learning to not sweat about not being able to hide. And when we're brave enough to do that, suddenly we'll go, oh yeah, well, there's my style.
Exactly. Yeah. I think also, I think the idea of creating a style sometimes can really muddy the waters for an artist, because you start thinking, okay, what's in style right now? What are people going to like? What is going to be accepted? And I think we can't help but sometimes consider those things.
Right.
But ultimately, your best art is going to come out when you forget about those things.
Right.
So yeah, it is a brave journey. It's hard to share yourself through your art, but ultimately when you start making that kind of art, that's when it's the most satisfying. And that's when your strongest style will come out.
Right.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Now for you as a creative, what's been your biggest challenge?
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit before. I think focus for me can sometimes be my biggest challenge. I think a lot of creatives can kind of relate to this, that we get so excited about so many things. And so it's hard to find, what should I focus on? What should I spend my time doing? And I have found over this journey that I just need to spend some really concentrated time in one area and then see how long that kind of path is. And I can tell when I start to burn out on a topic or a subject or, a exploration. And then I feel like then it's time to switch. So I've learned to not try and focus on everything at once, but give some consistent effort in one direction. So that's been a challenge. And I think it's probably something that is a challenge for a lot of artists and creatives.
I think it absolutely is, which is why I'm going to ask you this crazy, difficult next question, which is,
Okay.
It was so funny. I did an interview this year where I said, okay, Mario, I'm going to ask you an impossible question. And I thought maybe I'm going to do an impossible question every episode. Maybe, I don't know, but which is, how do you choose? When there's so many glorious things in front of you, how do you pick, this is the one I'm going to journey down the road with?
Yeah, I mean, that is a tough question. And I think it comes with time and getting in tune with yourself. And so I kind of know when something feels right. And this is going to sound kind of woo woo or whatever, but I kind of can feel it in my body if it's the right thing for me to focus on. If I feel resistance, or if I kind of make a face, even my husband now can recognize it. He's like, "Oh, that's not the right topic for you to focus on." But if I start talking about it and I get really lit up and I get excited and I can feel it in my stomach, like kind of butterflies, then I know that that's where the next pull is. And as crazy as that sounds, I've learned to trust those kind of signals that my body gives me, and it hasn't been wrong yet. So I'm very grateful for that.
Do you have, in that spirit of being connected to yourself and your gut and your intuition and your instincts, do you have creative practices or practices that sort of support that energetic connection to yourself?
Yes, I try to always really try and stay in my body when I'm creating. So if I feel that physical urge to grab a different pencil, a different tool to make marks with, or to change something up, that helps me trust myself. And it might be just to, change pencils. But the more that I listen to that little pull, the more I find that it crosses over into my business as well. So if I feel an urge in my business practices to do something or share a message or whatever it may be, I'm learning to trust that more. So it goes kind of hand in hand. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has it been challenging or exciting, or what's it been like to move into this kind of entrepreneurial nature of your work?
It is a mix of things, big time. It is very exciting. It's very rewarding. At the same time, it can be really terrifying. I'm actually an introverted person, but yet I have to really push my comfort zone to do a lot of what I do. So I'm learning to balance between the excitement and the fear. And I think that the fear is just always going to be a part of it. In fact, right before I got on the phone with you, I was like, what am I not going to be nervous about stuff? And it's like, I'm starting to realize that I don't know if that's ever going to go away. I think it's
Right.
just part of the journey and part of what I just have to learn to kind of embrace.
Mhm. Now, from an outside perspective, I would say from looking at your classes and your site that you are a person who thrives in an atmosphere of beauty. And so I wonder how important environment is for your creative life, and if you might have suggestions for people. What do you think is important about that for generally?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, I love beauty, of course. I think all artists appreciate beauty. And I do have to have that in my surroundings as well. I mean, I absolutely make a huge mess when I'm making art, but I always have to start with a clean studio. Like I always have to, put my little lights on and have my candle going and my music playing. So I do have sort of some ritualistic practices that help kind of bring a beautiful atmosphere to the place that I work. And I think that's really important. I think there's something to be said for, really respecting your tools of the trade, taking care of your things and setting them out beautifully. I think it just invites you to create more. It certainly invites me to create more. I don't think I could work, in a really dirty, smelly, garage with my husband's tools. Like I want my own sacred space if I can, manage it. And it
Right.
doesn't have to be a whole room. It could be a corner of your house or somewhere just tucked away that's just for you. But I mean, I think making it beautiful is just making it sacred.
Mhm. I feel like that's a little mantra that we can live by right there. Making it beautiful is making it sacred.
Yeah.
I wonder, when you teach your classes, what do you notice is the biggest stuck point for your students? Where do you feel like we as grown-ups can get a little hung up on creating?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I see with my students, and it's something that I think we all tackle with, is trusting ourselves. It's the biggest thing. I'll have students ask me like permission to do really simple things. And I'm always like, go ahead, you have permission. You give yourself permission to trust yourself. Don't feel like you always have to get permission from someone else.
Right.
I think that art really can be so therapeutic and such a connection or a place to work on trusting yourself. And I think a lot of times people want to know step by step exactly how to make this piece of art. And it's just not like that. Like there's always going to be challenges in making art, whether you have instruction or not.
Right.
And I think the more you can be at peace in those moments where you're going, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel freaked out. And say to yourself, I can get through this. I trust myself to solve this problem. I think that's where people get really hung up, especially adults, because, you see children and they create without hesitation.
Right.
But adults are constantly looking around at, the person next to them, thinking, am I good enough? Why are they doing it that way? Maybe I should do it that way. And I think it really comes down to learning to trust yourself and learning to take a chance and realize it's just art. It's just paint and paper. It doesn't have to be, terrifying.
Yes.
I think we can cause a lot of our own trauma by making it into something bigger than it is. And children don't do that. So I do see that a lot with my creative adult students for sure.
It's funny. It just makes me think of earlier you were talking about, just creating lots of work. And for me, this is a place where that applies too, is the more we create, the less precious we get about every single piece. I know for me, when I started, I came to drawing later. I still find it really intimidating. And I, for some reason, would feel like every single thing I drew was like the one true test of whether I had talent or not. And it's ridiculous. It's just one in a series of thousands of things that I could do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think we get in our heads too much, and I do it too. My inner critic comes out and all of a sudden I'm just like paralyzed. And so turning on music, dancing around the room, doing stuff like that gets you back into your body, I think really helps control that escalating fear that we encounter when we face a blank canvas.
So if you look back over your creative life, what do you wish that someone had told you? If someone could have dropped a little whisper in your ear 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever the right time is for you, what do you wish you had heard?
I would say, looking back on everything and how crazy meandering it was, I wish someone had told me that I didn't have to know all the answers and that I didn't have to know what the next step or the next place was going to look like. I think I had a lot of hangups along my journey because I had a lot of self-doubt. And I felt really kind of crazy when I was doing all these random things and they didn't seem to add up. So it would have been nice for someone to come along and say, hey, don't worry about knowing all the twists and turns on the path. You're not gonna, that's not how it works. So, just keep putting one foot in front of the other and trusting your gut and going after what lights you up, and it will lead you to a place. And you may not even stay in that place. I think so many times we feel like we have to have everything planned out. And of course, business plans and having goals, those are all really useful things, of course. But I think believing that you need to know everything that's going to happen just makes you stop in your tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking your journey here.
Oh, yes, my pleasure. I'm honored.
It's been a great time talking to you. And I know people are going to want to come and check out your classes and you. So where can people find you?
Yes, you guys can go to ivynewport.com, and we've actually made a special page for the Creative Living listeners. Yay. And that's going to be ivynewport.com/creative living.
Yay. Thank you for that. What a treat.
Of course. Yeah, we're offering some free classes and a nice little discount as well.
Oh, that is awesome. Thank you so much, Ivy. And thank you for being here today and sharing your wisdom and your journey.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure.
There are so many great takeaways from this interview with Ivy. Thanks so much, Ivy. And this week, I invite you to choose a wee corner of your space to experiment with this idea that making it beautiful is making it sacred. I'd love to see what you do. So share on Instagram and tag me at Starshine, StarShyne. And don't forget to check out Ivy's special offer for us at ivynewport.com/creative living. So just before we go, I wanted to let you know that the fall season of classes is now available at Jamie Ridler Studios. Just come on over to openthedoor.ca, click on the Academy, and you will see the whole roster. One of the practices that made a difference for Ivy and for so many of my guests is journaling. And you can get the support and structure you need to dive into a journal practice by joining me for Journal Club. We dive deep, we have fun. It is a great community of creative women. And if you're curious about trying out different forms of journaling, check out the Journal Sampler course, which is now available as a self-study program. There are dream board workshops for each of the full moons of this season, and the next one is for the full Hunter's moon. There's also planning day and vision cards. There is so much to support your creative life. So visit the Academy at openthedoor.ca and find the class or classes that are just right for you. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I am honored and delighted that you're here. Until next time, remember, your life is your studio. I'll see you soon.